calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Hey, what do you say, folks? It is Wednesday, May 25, the Bill Press Show. So good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. We got lots to talk about on the political front and on more going on. Bill Cosby yesterday, the judge in Philadelphia said, no, he has to stand trial for charges of sexual assault 20 or so years ago. He tried to get the case dismissed. The judge didn't go along with it. And that's not the end of the road for Bill Cosby, hardly. I think there are a total of 56 women who have come forward to accuse of an improper activity toward them, if you will. And then we'll talk about that right here on Free Speech TV and on our video stream, TawkrTV, and ask you your comments. You have a chance to tell us what you think by just giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS or sending your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Meanwhile, on the political front, Donald Trump out in Albuquerque, New Mexico last night for a fundraiser and also holding a big rally in anticipation of the New Mexico primary on June 7. And once again, violent protests broke out outside of the convention hall. It was another Trump rally, another violent protest. Bernie Sanders, meanwhile, barnstorming California, getting huge crowds throughout Southern California in city after city after city, and criticizing Hillary Clinton for refusing to debate Bernie Sanders in California. There was actually a debate scheduled on Fox News, but Hillary Clinton said she's not interested in one more debate. All of that we'll talk about right here on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Don't forget, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi.
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
How about it? Donald Trump sweeping the Washington primary, winning all 44 delegates. But, of course, he was the only one on the ballot. A little easier that way. Hello, everybody. Oh, here we go. That wasn't really a Super Tuesday last night. It was just kind of a little fart in the wind, I think, from Washington State. May 25, it is Wednesday. Good to see you today, and thank you for joining us. Here on the Bill Press Show, we're just getting started. Rev it up for the next 3 hours to talk about what's happening in the news today on the political front and other fronts as well. We got Donald Trump to talk about, Bernie and Hillary, of course, what the scene is like up in Baltimore, and Bill Cosby forced to stand trial for all of those allegations of sexual assault. President Obama leaving Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, and going on to Japan for the rest of his week in Asia. So lots on our plate today, and lots of you are going to want to sound off about how to do it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Join me in saying hello to our team here, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill. Good morning.
All looking at you wherever you are, coast to coast on this beautiful Wednesday, May 25. It looks like a good day in Washington today.
It's going to get up close to 90 degrees today.
Get out.
No rain in the forecast. We could actually be easing into summer.
No, wait. This is Washington, D.C.
I know. Right? It's weird.
Right. This is like Portland, Oregon, or Seattle.
I don't know what we're going to do with ourselves.
There has to be some rain to some.
We're going to freak out at sunshine.
It's been that way. Man, it certainly has. Let's say hello to Ray Rogers, also our screener, on the phones, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and here, hidden behind the locked door with the lights out, Cyprian Bolding. So we keep him.
It's for the best.
It is.
It's everyone's best interest.
We keep him in solitary confinement.
Oh God!
Whoa,
there you
watch
go.
out.
So be careful.
And we thank Cyprian for his go. And boy, last night I got to tell you, man, Carol was a happy camper last night.
Oh man!
I was working upstairs, but I could hear the TV. She had on the living room for the game, and every time, it seems like every 5 minutes, the Nats were hitting another home run.
Yeah.
That first pitcher, Harvey, was started for the Mets.
So he's been slumping.
Yeah.
And a bunch of Mets fans got together, this contingent, to go sit out in right field last night to support Matt Harvey. But
how'd that go?
Didn't do any good.
How'd that go?
Yeah. Didn't know, man. They just clobbered him.
My new favorite TV show is watching the Nationals beat the ever-loving S out of the Mets.
Right,
it makes me so happy when they beat the Mets.
So Matt Harvey was slumping, but Dan Harvey, who used to...
Daniel Murphy,
right?
yes.
Daniel Murphy was with the Mets, now with the Nats. He even sent his little message last night. Here's Charlie Slows.
Swinging a long drive, deep right field, way back, going, gone, goodbye, over the bullpen, into the second deck, a two-run homer for Daniel Murphy. Listen to the crowd on a blast, landing in section 239. Murphy with his 7th home run. RBIs 29 and 30. And it's a 3-run fit for the Nationals. And it's Washington 5, New York 1. Bang! Zoom goes Daniel Murphy.
Charlie Slows is great.
He's really great.
No, he really is. Yeah. Gone. Goodbye.
I mean, it was a close game up until they cracked it wide open there in the 5th. I mean, they looked like they were pretty evenly matched. But
yeah.
Nats have the bats.
Yeah, that was fun. It was neat. So we got lots going on today. Jordan Fabian will be here from the Hill, covering the White House for the Hill. Sabrina Siddiqui, our good friend and frequent guest host here, will be joining us a little bit later in this hour. Steve Shepard, senior political correspondent for Politico, will be here in studio with us as well. So lots going on. And Donald Trump already hitting the low road, about as low as you can go. Will it work? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Adele, the singer, she's obviously very popular, had a lot of success. Well, she just signed a new record deal with Sony Music. It is the biggest one ever handed out to a British musician. She's 28 years old, and she just signed a contract worth $131 million.
Whoa.
Crazy. That's the most valuable ever for a female. It's bigger than Whitney Houston's deal that she signed with Arista in 2001.
Really?
Sony put out a statement that we have secured Adele, who is without a doubt the biggest music star in a generation. And no word on when her next album comes out, but they've got her locked up for the foreseeable future.
I'm still going with overrated.
I get the Adele thing. I'm not a huge fan, but she's a good singer.
Yeah, can't deny that.
You know,
how about Streisand out with a new album?
I totally missed that. Does she really?
No.
Good
today,
for her.
Today.
Good for her.
Today, and she's going on tour again. I mean, it's just...
That's nuts.
Good for her.
It's still unbelievable.
I had no idea. That's awesome. Yeah, keep it going.
I know. We thought that she'd kind of stepped aside. She sort of said she had.
Yeah.
And she keeps coming back every once in a while.
It's hard to stay away, I guess. NFL, right? We talk a lot about how dangerous it is to play football. Well, the Buffalo Bills general manager, a man by the name of Doug Whaley, was asked about whether or not he would let his kids play football and the overall effects of football. And he said, quote, "This is the game of football. It's a violent game that I personally don't think humans are supposed to play." That is the answer he gave to a local sports radio station in Buffalo. Remember, this is
the coach for the Buffalo
the general
Bills.
manager. The general manager for a National Football League football team says that humans are not meant to play football. So take that however you want.
Right.
Bill, do you have a lot of pent-up anger, frustration?
Oh, yeah, but I get it out on the television.
Well, that's you have an outlet. Not everybody has an outlet, so there is a whole new economy building up around rage rooms. The Guardian actually has a whole big piece on one particular place in Houston called the Rage Room, and what you do is you pay money to go into a room for 5 minutes and just beat the hell out of some things that they put in the room. They give you a baseball bat, they give you an axe, they make you put on a protective mask and protective gear. You can beat the crap out of TVs, chinaware, tables.
Can you, throw plates?
You can throw plates. You can do whatever you want.
5 minutes is not enough time.
I know. That was my biggest problem. It's 5 minutes for $25, and if you want to theme a room, it's $85 for a little more time. For example, there was one customer who just wanted to destroy a bathroom. So they built a bathroom with mirrors and a toilet and a sink, and they sent her in there with a sledgehammer, and she just destroyed everything. I am so on board with this. This would be so much fun.
I like smashing light bulbs.
Smashing light bulbs is so therapeutic.
From that 40-year-old virgin scene, you know?
I used to. When I worked in construction, part of what I had to do was demolition, and they would just put me in a place overnight and just take the walls out of the place. It was so great. It was so therapeutic.
I think anybody would pay money to do that. It's just.
I'm not going to pay money to do it.
Yeah.
Find a job that will pay you to do it. That's the thing.
Well, I got to tell you, it is so enlightening, this political season that we're in the middle of. 2016. And I just wonder, and I made this point last night on our CNN panel. There until midnight, by the way, East Coast time. So if I'm dragging a little bit this morning, if I seem like I am, I have a good reason to. But Donald Trump, in his speech last night in Albuquerque, New Mexico, he called Hillary, of course, Crooked Hillary again. And the guy that introduced him, I don't know who he is, called her just low life. It's hard to have to run again. I mean, this is only May 24. 25 now, okay? May 25, and already we're that low. And in fact, yesterday, Donald Trump putting out a video accusing President Obama, President Clinton, former President Clinton, of rape. And then in his comments, he's now come up with a conspiracy theory that Vince Foster didn't really commit suicide. It seems awfully fishy, hinting, if not accusing, the former president and, of course, the former first lady of murder. So we're into rape, murder, low life, crooked Hillary. How low can it get? How low can he go? And I think the question is, there ain't no limit.
There's no bottom.
No bottom.
I mean, it is really remarkable. Because, I mean, we all knew that this was coming. We all knew it was going to be ugly.
I thought maybe September, October.
I did too.
Yeah.
I thought that it would be really ratcheting up when he realized that he was going to be down in the polls and throwing everything at her. But this is where we're beginning. This is where we start with the general election.
Right. Now, the question, there are two questions really, is how will it work? Will it work, particularly for people who weren't alive then or certainly weren't of voting age then? Can they really make these issues stick? By the way, the other side of the coin here is that Hillary Clinton was all part of it. She knew her husband was playing around. She didn't do anything about it. She even enabled him, and she was part of the attack machine against the women who were making these accusations against Bill Clinton. So it's the two of them together. Trump, links the two of them together. Now, so the question first is, will this work as an issue against Hillary? Will it really hurt her, again, with people who weren't around then and knew nothing about it? Rush Limbaugh says absolutely. Absolutely. Trump has done a public service by informing people of how bad this couple is. So will it work? 866-55-PRESS. The other question is, how does Hillary respond? So far, she says, and her campaign says, not going to go there. Not going to go there. Not going to talk about it. Not going to respond. Going to stick to the issues. Or stick to problems, let's say, in Donald Trump's career that are not related to his personal life. Like, does he really know what he's talking about? Does he really know the issues? What about his business record? What about his tax returns? What about his bankruptcies? Those kinds of issues. Is he qualified to be president of the United States? What would he actually do as president? Where would he take this country? That's what the Clinton campaign says they're going to focus on that. Again, my question to you is 866-55-PRESS. Will it work? Now, another line of attack is one that the media has taken, particularly led by the Washington Post, who point out, and even the Wall Street Journal, by the way, yesterday's, we'll get to in just a second, who point out that this is is kind of really, really over-the-board hypocritical of Donald Trump, because back in those days, he was defending Bill Clinton. Mm-hmm. And very, very directly, Donald Trump told, today he says, right, this is from this Washington Post article, nobody in this country was worse than Bill Clinton with women. He was a disaster. He was disaster. But back in 1997, Donald Trump told my old buddy, Bob Novak, quote, I think Bill Clinton's terrific. I think he's done an amazing job. I think he's probably got the toughest skin I've seen, and I think he's a terrific guy. I don't think he's been treated very fairly, but I think he's done a terrific job. And then Trump went on to say in 1998 on CNBC, the best thing Clinton has going is the fact that the economy's doing great. I've never seen anything like it. And about his sex life, Donald Trump in an interview with Chris Matthews.
Paula Jones is a loser, but the fact is that she may be responsible for bringing down a president indirectly. And, you know, that statement was a bad statement to have been made, and it's proven to be false. So,
false, right. Paula Jones, loser. He attacked the women, he defended Clinton, and then Chris Matthews asked him, well, have you ever thought about running for office?
Can you imagine how controversial that'd be? You think about him with the women. How about me with the women?
Yeah, right. How about me with the women? And he also said at that time, this is in the New York Times, Donald Trump said, after the initial shock, talking about the Clinton stuff, after the initial shock is past, the American people are less interested in sexual transgressions than they are in public achievements. Donald Trump said that.
I hope that Donald Trump is right.
Right. I hope that Donald Trump. That's a good question. Is that Donald Trump right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we're in the middle of it right now. We thought it would go there eventually. No. It's already there. It's already out there. Donald Trump is already. I don't know.
God, where do we go from here?
Exactly. I don't know where we go from here. But in the meantime, rape, murder, you name it, low life, sexual enabler, the whole thing. Will it work? How should Hillary Clinton respond? And do people care that Donald Trump is saying just the opposite today of what he said about this, all this Clinton stuff back in the days of? For his, it's worse than a flip-flop. I mean, it is totally upside down. The Washington Post doesn't give him 4 or 5 Pinocchios. They give him an upside-down Pinocchio.
Oh, my God.
Meaning you couldn't get any worse than this. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. We're in the middle of it right here on the Bill Press Show.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, how about 26 minutes after the hour? Talk about all the ugly, ugly attacks, particularly now on the sex scandals, but it's even gone to murder that Donald Trump has engaged in already against Hillary and Bill Clinton, of course. And we got to ask ourselves, as disgusting as it is, will it work? So far, everything Donald Trump has tried against his Republican opponents worked.
Yeah.
He's the only one still standing. So this work against Hillary, and how should she engage him, if at all? And the worry all of us has is, okay, you admire the fact that she's not going to go down there, right? She's not going to stoop that low. But could she make the same mistake John Kerry did and not respond to attacks, and then people start believing them? Let's jump up to Connecticut. Hello, Wayne.
Good morning, Bill.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, it's not going to work.
I hope
And the
you're
reason
right.
it's not going to work is that this is classic blaming the victim. And far be it for me to speak for women, but it seems to me that women, by and large, are very sensitive to that issue, and it's just not going to work.
Hey, wait.
And she should not respond, and she's got surrogates for that.
True, and an excellent point. And you know, I even heard Kelly McEnany, who's one of the CNN Trump people, on last night. She was on with Don Lemon last night before I was there with Wolf Blitzer later, and she said that, you know, women, when the husband cheats on them, that women across the country, Republican and Democrat, understand it's not fair to blame the woman or blame the victim in this case. Off to a good start, Wayne. More calls coming up.
This
866
is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
as an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You taught him how to hit a baseball. Just like that. How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Donald Trump's already taken the 2016 primary into the sexual gutter, accusing Bill Clinton of rape and murder, and some more than the sexual gutter, and of course accusing his wife of being his accomplice or his enabler, as he says. Just to give you, and the question we're kicking around is whether or not these attacks will work. To a certain extent, they're like 20 years old, but he is bringing them all back. Will they work, and how should Hillary Clinton respond? By the way, just to put it in context, I think of how much, maybe people ought to know this before they just swallow the poison that Donald Trump is putting out there. You know, the great site PolitiFact.
Yes.
From the Tampa Bay Times, they look at statements by all the candidates and they rate them true, mostly true, half true, false, or liar, liar, pants on fire. Interesting to compare, right? True statements. They have looked at, for Hillary, 46 statements, true, 54 mostly true, 42 half true, false 3, and pants on fire 3. False 23, pants on fire 3. Donald Trump, true, of all the things he said, 3. 3. Compared to 46 for Hillary.
God.
Okay. Mostly true. 9. Compared to 54.
Still not in double digits.
For Hillary. No. Half true. 21.
Okay.
Compared to 42 for Hillary. Right. Okay. False. 61.
Oh, my God.
Right? Compared to 23 for Hillary. And liar, liar, pants on fire, 26.
Good.
Compared to 3 for Hillary. By the way, Bernie Sanders, 0 pants on fire. So, but it's just the idea. You cannot believe this crap coming from Donald Trump.
It's amazing.
But,
I mean, the one thing that I think we should all be very aware of here is that this is a campaign that is the likes we have never, ever, ever seen before. I don't know. I hope we never see anything like this again. And so whatever rule book there is about politics, you can throw it out the window. So
that's what's frightening.
That really is frightening because, yeah, I mean, ignoring the sexual stuff and the enabling accusations that he's making towards Hillary, right? Like, seems like probably the right thing to do. But I think Americans, a lot of Trump voters anyway, are just bloodthirsty. They want to see him mix it up.
It's also his way of continuing to dominate the free media, which is something we've talked about before, and it worked yesterday once again. Out to Elgin, Illinois. Here's our friend Ron. Hi, Ron.
Good morning, folks. Wow, there's a lot to talk about.
I know. You can go in a lot of directions here.
But yes, unfortunately, it will work. Hopefully not to the majority of folks. And hopefully New York, California, Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, voters will be smart enough not to swallow that stuff. But it's already worked for him once by winning the Republican nomination, going as low as he did with his opponents in the Republican nomination.
Not just ridiculing them, belittling them, but accusing them of any conspiracy theory he could think of. Right? I just would hope, Ron, that the American people have at least half the voters have been through this. 18, 20 years ago, they've dealt with it, and it's either important to them or it's not. And to most Americans, it's not. And look,
I think that's true.
Hillary Clinton was elected senator on her own, right? Reelected on her own. Got a lot of votes for president in 2008 on her own, right? So this has been out there before voters, and she survived it in the past. Again, 866-55-PRESS from San Francisco. Hello, Ted. Good morning out there on the West Coast.
Good morning.
Yeah, what's up? What do you think?
Well, I'm an old guy, so I've been following these since 1968. And my feeling is that there is a way to put this in a rubric we know well. The Trump strategy, if it's a strategy, and I think it is the extreme of get out the base. because it's not the whole Republican base.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Republicans in the suburbs are probably not going to buy this, but he is going to find every racist, every bigot, every gun nut, every KKK member. I mean, he may get a 99% turnout of that group. And that's my worry. Now, of course, the things he's doing are going to increase Latino turnout, black turnout, Jewish turnout, a lot of...
On the other side, right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the negative of that strategy. But what do you think of this idea that this is an extreme of get out the base?
I think you're right. And I think you're onto something. I mean, I think you're, and when you say he'll probably get a 90% turnout of the fringe element, right, of the Republican Party, the question is, Ted, how many of them are there, right?
The other question is, there are a fair number of states besides Texas and California where Hispanics unfortunately don't matter in the current calculation. A lot of them are going to come out too.
Yeah.
And that's, there are a lot of Hispanics in Georgia.
Well,
I just spent a couple of months in Florida in the I-4 corridor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, throughout the South now, the Latino population is really picking up. By the way, I heard last night that New Mexico is the state that has the largest Latino population, 47% population.
Oh, wow.
In New Mexico, which is maybe why we saw these protests against Donald Trump in Albuquerque last night.
Wait, but Donald Trump said that Hispanics love him.
Oh, yeah.
And he loves them.
That is true. Yeah. You can tell how much they love him by all the violence outside of that. Not condoning the violence at all. In fact, I don't think those people who were throwing rocks at the cops and breaking windows were doing their cause any good.
No.
But certainly, and on that point, just I know a little tangent here. Ted, by the way, thanks for the call before we let you go. That Donald Trump has to take some responsibility for what happened last night. We talked about this on our panel on CNN. And Jeffrey Lord was saying, well, you can't blame Donald Trump. You can't blame Donald Trump. This happened. And I said, wait. He said, this has happened in the past. Look at 1968 in Chicago in the Democratic Convention. I said, wait a minute, Jeffrey. Let's just focus on 2016. The only place with all the political rallies we've had, with all the candidates we've had, the only place there's been any violence at all is inside or outside a Donald Trump event.
True.
Nobody else.
Yeah.
Not Bernie, not Hillary, not John Kasich, not Marco Rubio. Donald Trump events. Why? Because of the ugliness of his rhetoric. He incites that kind of response, and he's got to take some responsibility for it. A final footnote on a point that Ted made in terms of Donald Trump, yes, generating these people on the far right who really feed into this kind of hate talk, right? But he also will generate a lot of people, let's hope, on the other side to come out against him. A sign of that is, in California, they've had more new voter registrations than like they've ever had. 1.5 million like in the last couple of months. Now, not all of those people are registering Democratic, but knowing California the way I do, former Democratic Party chair, I'll tell you, I'll bet at least 65% of them are Democratic.
From your lips.
Yeah, right. And so, he's bringing out our people as well. Up in New Hampshire, Meredith, New Hampshire, it's Susan. Hi, Susan.
Hey, Bill. It's great to talk to you.
And to you. Thank you.
I have another theory. I think that when Trump does these kind of statements, it actually really helps Hillary. Because Hillary's problem is when you look at her critically and you really track what she's doing, she doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
And when he says these outrageous things, people go, well, she's not a rapist. And they get on a defensive mode about her. And they stop really looking at her critically because they get so amped into how shocking it is what he's saying to her. So I actually think he's helping her because when you look at her critically, you don't feel great about her.
No, it's not. It's hard getting enthusiastic or a lot of excitement about it, as we've seen, right, in the primaries so far. That's a very good point, Susan. I do think it could. I do believe, and maybe I'm just being pie in the sky optimistic here. I do believe these kind of attacks will backfire, And I do think they will make some people say, come on, that's not fair to Hillary. You can't blame the woman for the sins of the husband.
Yeah.
So, Susan, good point. Sabrina Siddiqui standing by. We'll talk to her next. She has a kind of exit interview with Marco Rubio. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explained that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit, highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors, shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. How about it? On a Wednesday, May 25. Good to see you today. Thanks for being with us. So, they have that every once in a while in the paper or wherever you'll see, whatever happened to, you know what I mean? Like somebody you haven't thought about for 25 or 30 years.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened. Well, people are starting to ask that question about whatever happened to Marco Rubio, for example.
Little Marco.
You know who knows? Sabrina Siddiqui knows.
Oh, of course she knows.
Of course, she knows everything about politics. She is a great friend, a frequent friend of Bill here, and a frequent guest host for the Bill Press Show. Her real job is political reporter for The Guardian. Joining us on our newsline, hi, Sabrina.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Right.
I think you were looking for the phrase, where are they now?
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Where are they now? Okay. Well, where's
Yeah.
Marco Rubio now?
He's back in the Senate. He actually went back to the Senate 48 hours after he dropped out of Florida. And he's quite busy trying to make the most of the 7 months he's got left after he was criticized during his presidential campaign for being an absentee senator.
Right.
And which was fairly standard for people who run for president. They all missed votes, so they didn't spend much time there. But he, I think, especially having been handed such a crushing loss in his home state of Florida to Donald Trump, realized that his own constituents clearly did not feel as though he had lived up to the role he was elected to serve.
Did you get any sense from him when you talk that he regrets having run for president?
Not that he regrets having run for president. In fact, I think that he still does genuinely believe that he operated a very conventional campaign that would have been a winning campaign had it not been for Donald Trump. I think he really does think that while there were some strategic mistakes his campaign made, in any other year he would have likely been the nominee or had a very good chance. I mean, there are other, of course, more substantive mistakes that I think he made as a candidate, but whether he's willing to admit that, I don't know if it has to do with he's not willing to say that, or whether he actually just has people around him who have said, look, it just wasn't our year.
Yeah, I mean, he lost his Senate seat, right? So he's going to be out of office, and I just wonder whether he thinks, damn.
Well, he decided not to run for re-election to the Senate, and he has until June 24th to change his mind. Republicans really like him to change his mind, but he has adamantly said he would not like to.
Oh, I didn't know he had that.
I didn't either.
I didn't know he still had that option. That's interesting. So, in terms of regrets or mistakes that he made, was the little hands of Donald Trump? Was that the number one mistake?
Well, he did not repeat that. When I was speaking with him, I interviewed him last week on Capitol Hill. So that's something he had said right away a week later in the campaign that he regretted, because he realized how much it cost him. It had a very tangible effect on the trajectory of his campaign in terms of really acting as a nail in the coffin at a time that he was already struggling. He pointed to the infamous debate in New Hampshire with Chris Christie, where he robotically repeated himself several times. The let's dispel with this fiction that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. I think he said that, they had made a decision, knowing Chris Christie was going to go after them, to not engage and to just stay on message, which, of course, was exactly what Chris Christie was attacking him for, that he's incapable of straying from his message. And he realized how that really affected his performance at a time when he had come into New Hampshire as someone who would have probably finished a strong second, if not potentially won the state. That was where the polling had him going in after Iowa, and then, of course, he finished fifth and then never, ever recovered from that. I think he blamed the media. He a little less than his own actual performance in the debate, but I think he recognizes the impact of that moment.
All right, then the two big questions. I'm sure you ask him. Is he going to, or has he endorsed Donald Trump?
He has. What he has said is that he will support the nominee, and he is refusing to say the words "I endorse Donald Trump."
Yeah.
And the thing is that he's really wanting to create some distance by saying that he still stands by all the criticisms he made of Donald Trump during his campaign. And if you remember, that includes calling the guy a con artist who would destroy the Republican Party, who shouldn't have access to nuclear codes because he was erratic. But, he's going back to this idea that anyone is better than Hillary Clinton. And so, unlike Jeb Bush and Lindsey Graham, who actively broke the pledge that they all took to support the nominee, Marco Rubio has decided that he
support
should
the nominee,
stick to it.
which is the safe
He
fallback
won't, I don't
position.
think you'll see him campaigning for him.
Right.
He said that should be left
All
to
right,
people
so
who buy into his message.
that's the second question. How about Vice President with Donald Trump? Any chance?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
easy enough.
Donald Trump's people were, leaking to places like the New York Times and other outlets that Marco Rubio is actively seeking the post, and he had to come out with this whole statement clarifying that I have never sought and will never seek the position of Donald Trump.
All right,
Vice
Sabrina,
President.
you know what the time? You know what the clock's like. We're up against it. We got to run. Great to
Okay.
talk to you. Thank you.
Great to
Thank
talk
you.
to you.
Sabrina Siddiqui from The Guardian.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Every day when I was 5, my older sister would play teacher. Her students were me, my stuffed rabbit, and an American Girl doll. She'd line us up at the end of the bed and teach us whatever she'd learned in school that day. Now she teaches ESL at an elementary school in Boston, and every week she tells me stories about her students. Anna does not know how to read in Spanish, much less English, but she still wants to be a writer when she grows up. Juan chooses to stay inside and study at recess so that one day he'll be able to teach his own brother. These kids are good organs in a sick body. In 2001, No Child Left Behind gutted bilingual education. Students who have been in the country for 1 year are now expected to perform at grade level on standardized English tests. My sister is not allowed to instruct them in Spanish. If the kids don't jump high enough, the school loses money. Improving a school by picking its pockets is like tuning a guitar by ripping off the strings. Learning to read in a new language before you can even read in your own is like learning to walk while a pit bull is chasing you, like learning to sing with the conductor's fist down your throat. This year for my sister's birthday, I got books for her students, a poem on one page in Spanish, the next in English. She is not allowed to help them read the first. Their heritage is a banned book. Learning to read in a new language when you can't even read in your own is like trying to heal a burn victim by drowning them. We are telling these children who have spent their whole lives in the deep end that they'll learn how to swim if they just float out a little farther. In the 1980s, American slaughterhouses began building corrals in curves so no animals could see the blood at the end of the tracks. This is how we kept them moving forward. In 2001, we began building the hallways of our schools in curves. This is how we keep them moving forward. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you drop out. I know. I am lucky enough to be one of the winners of this game. I was handed a head start and a rule book in my own tongue, but the winners of a rigged game should not get to write the rules. On the television, some senator preaches that throwing money at an urban school is like feeding caviar to your dog. They just won't know how to appreciate it. After all, if these parents can't take care of their own children, why should we? Well, tell that to Anna, who has my sister translate newsletters aloud to her father because he too was never taught how to read. Tell that to Juan, whose mother and baby brother are still in Guatemala, whose father works 3 jobs. My sister tells me school is the most stable place in these kids' lives. She has been a teacher since she was smaller than they are. But since when does being a teacher mean having to swear not to help? Since when does being a teacher mean having your hands tied while the schoolhouse burns to the ground? We are leading these children along a track built in circles as their lungs fill with smoke, telling them it is their fault. They can't find a way out.
Dylan Garrity from Slam MN.
Joe.
Hey, we're going to take a look at college debt and the burden of it on today's students. How bad is it? And any relief on the way? Take a look at that at the top of the next hour. And then we will be joined by Jordan Fabian, who covers the White House for The Hill, talking about President Obama's trip to Vietnam and to Japan, and what we have learned from that, what the president, the rest of the week on the president's agenda. All of that coming up on our next hour, so stay right here with us on today's edition of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
A landslide victory for Donald Trump in Washington state. But of course, he was the only one on the ballot. All 44 delegates are his. Hello, everybody. What do you say? It is a Wednesday, May 25. Great to see you today. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for being part of the Bill Press Show. Anywhere in this great country, we are there with you on the radio and on television, on your local progressive talk radio station, on either one of those two great apps for radio, TuneIn or iHeartRadio. More and more people listening in on those apps as they move around. We encourage you to download them. They're free. And also, it's good to see all of you watching on Free Speech TV. If you got a satellite dish, you're with us on DirecTV. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our studio on Capitol Hill, and the gang's all here this morning. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hey, hey.
Good morning. Yes.
Happy Wednesday.
All right, in the middle of the week. Here we go, Ray Rogers. She's standing by to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Keep her busy just like you did in the first hour, and Cyprian Bolding has us looking good on Free Speech TV, on the video, and on TawkrTV.
You got it.
What am I saying?
TAWKR.
TAWKR. Donald Trump last night in his big rally in Albuquerque, New Mexico, before the troubles started, he was reading through some of the statistics about some of the problems facing the state of New Mexico. And remember, there is a Republican governor in New Mexico, Susana Martinez, who has not endorsed Donald. She endorsed Chris Christie in the primary, right? Has not endorsed Donald Trump, not happy with his views on immigration, so he couldn't resist taking a couple of pot shots at her.
Since 2000, the number of people on food stamps in New Mexico has tripled. We have to get your governor to get going. She's got to do a better job, okay? Your governor has got to do a better job. She's not doing the job.
And then he said, maybe I'll run against her for oh, God, I'm telling you, not a way to win friends. I don't think you're going to see her endorsing anytime soon. She said she wasn't, of course, at the rally last night. She said she had another engagement. We were wondering this morning if she was maybe throwing another party like happened. Remember a couple of years ago, she was throwing a party and there were complaints in the hotel that things were too noisy, and so they were going to send up the cops. So she called 911, clearly having had a few drinks herself, to suggest that there was no need to send the police.
There's no necessity for your officers to be here. Okay, thank you. You can call them off. Goodbye.
Call them off?
Yes. No, not necessary for your officers.
There's no necessary. It's no necessary. Not necessary.
For officers to be here, right?
Look, I love you.
In that same conversation, she did say, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah, there was a "Do you know who I am?" in there.
All right, the burden of college debt hanging on the backs of many Americans, millions of American students, forever, it seems. President Obama and Michelle Obama, they just paid off their debt recently.
Yeah.
What's going on? We're going to check in with Neil Swidey from the Boston Globe magazine on that topic right here at the top of the hour. And then Jordan Fabian, covering the White House for The Hill, joins us at the half hour. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. All right, so Donald Trump has clearly made a lot of news in the last couple of days by accusing Bill and Hillary Clinton of rape and enabling and murder. So you would think that Republicans would be running
just for
from
starters.
Yeah, just for
me.
starters.
Believe me.
Believe me. So you'd think Republicans would be running from him, but that is not the case. A story in Bloomberg today says that Paul Ryan has told his confidants that he regrets ever bickering with Donald Trump. He regrets not coming out and endorsing him, and that he is ready to, quote, end this standoff. There will be an endorsement for Donald Trump from Paul Ryan in the next couple of days.
Oh, well.
This is all according to
cute.
Bloomberg.
Yeah, big surprise, right?
Big deal, right?
Yeah, you knew he was going to have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was
and
coming.
I think it was dumb of him to do this whole thing in the first place.
Yeah. The Super Bowl we know where it's going to be for the next several years. The owners have voted, and we found out they've got a whole slate of where the next 5 Super Bowls will be taking place. 2017, it will be in Houston. 2018, it will be in Minneapolis. 2019, it will be in Atlanta. 2020, it will be in Miami. And in 2021, the Super Bowl comes back to Los Angeles at the new Rams Stadium. It was last played in L.A. in 1993, which saw the Cowboys beat the Bills 52-17 at the Rose Bowl. So they'll be playing in a brand new stadium.
No Washington, D.C. on the list.
No Washington, D.C. on the list. I don't think we're going to see that for quite some time.
By the way, how does the NFL make money in the offseason? Air a 5-hour selection show yesterday on their network.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how they have a grip on the sport. It's crazy how they handle it. And it was a couple months ago, in February, we learned of the sad passing of Dave Mirra, the BMX legend. He took his own life, and doctors and at the autopsy, and people looked at his autopsy, I should say, found out that he was suffering from CTE. He was a BMX biker, so he took a lot of falls, hit his head a lot, and after they took a look at everything, they said that he had chronic brain damage that has shown up in football players, also known as CTE. Of course, that comes along with dementia, memory loss, and depression. So this answers some questions for his fans and his family.
Very sad. Very sad.
Thank
you, Peter. 12 minutes after the hour, indeed. The college debt crisis, worse than we think. We have heard a lot about it. Neil Swidey, just doing a piece for the Boston Globe magazine on that issue, joining us on our news line here this morning. Hello, Neil. Good to have you with us.
Great to be here, Bill.
So first of all, just tell us kind of overall, how bad is I know it's worse in the Boston area than anywhere in the country, but before we get there, nationwide, what are we talking about in terms of dimensions?
So the college debt crisis is now $1.23 trillion.
Trillion.
And it's huge. It's enormous. But what I was fascinated with was the fact that that overlooks a huge part of the population, which are the people in the worst bind, and these are the students who are starting college and not finishing. And that the numbers are less clear, but they're more devastating when you look at that population.
You mean because they're not finishing, therefore they don't have the advantage of the degree, but they still have the debt?
Exactly, yeah. And what they're doing in particular, I was looking at low-income students who are just doing what we've told them to do. Society has been pretty clear that the consensus is overwhelming in the advice we give students, particularly low-income students, which is go to college. That's the best way to get ahead, to climb a few rungs on the economic ladder. But what that advice loses sight of is if you do get on go go down that path and you don't finish. And at many colleges I was looking at, the majority of the low-income students are not finishing. That leaves you in a much bigger hole because, as you say, you don't get the extra earning power you get with a degree, but you have to use your lower earnings to pay back debt. Because 6 months after you leave college, with or without a degree, those loans kick in.
Oh, really? That's just that soon. Well, that kind of begs the question too. Even if you get the degree, is it still true that you're guaranteed to increase your earning power?
Well, that's kind of fascinating too. So, that advice we tell students to go to college and get ahead is based on this average, which most counselors can quote, which is over your lifetime, your average career earnings boost from having a 4-year degree is about $1 million. So that's persuasive to students.
Yeah.
But actually, new research from the Brookings Institution looks at that and kind of peels away at what those averages are, and it's pretty disheartening if you look at college as this great equalizer, because students who are low income who graduate come out making about 2/3 as much as affluent students who come out of college, and then over their career that earning ratio goes down to about half by the midpoint of their career. And yes, they'll be making more than another poor student coming out of who just has a high school degree, about 91% more than a poor student with just a high school degree. But the college degree for an affluent student is a much bigger engine of growth. It's 162% more than another affluent student who only has a high school degree.
You can read Neil's article at bostonglobe.com/magazine. And Neil, let me ask you this. So if you say it's 1.3 trillion overall, is there an average that burden that your average student leaves school dragging around with him or her?
Yeah, it's around, depending on the survey you look at, it's around $30,000, and that's a large chunk of money. But the students I was looking at are much higher than that. These are students who have $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 of debt, and they're coming out. They may have that degree, or they may not have that degree, but they've got that debt, that big pile. In some cases, $100,000 of debt. What I was particularly looking at is we have a lot of colleges in the country. And in some areas, like in the Northeast, we have a lot of private colleges. Now, if a low-income student gets into Harvard, or if they get into Amherst College, or if they get into Stanford, they're going to do okay financially because those colleges have the resources, the big endowments to make college affordable, so those students aren't taking on debt. But shockingly, a lot of colleges don't, and they'll give students whose family makes $30,000 as their total income. They'll give the gap each year for those students to fill of about $30,000 a year. So they're asking students, low-income students, to use essentially their family's entire income for 1 year of school, and then you've got to try to multiply that by four and hope that they graduate.
Yeah, no, it's an impossible situation, it seems. Now, why is it, as you point out in your article, that the percentage of debt owned by students in the Boston area is so much higher than nationwide?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, we've got a lot of private colleges in this area. In some parts of the country where your choice is really just to go to, the flagship state university or the local community college, that's going to lower debt. Here in the Northeast, where we've traditionally, because we have a lot of private colleges, we've invested less in the public university system than other states do. Uh-huh. And so those public universities, and this is happening actually all over the country, the public universities now, because of federal and state cutbacks, go chasing affluent out-of-state students to fill seats, and that makes fewer slots open for poor in-state students. And they actually use non-need-based merit aid, so give them small scholarships of a couple of $1,000s to just kind of goose their chances of those students choosing their college. But that money comes out of the limited financial scholarship budgets that the colleges have.
Now, you've mentioned a couple of times that they owe this money. They owe this money, and they have to start paying 6 months after. Who did they owe it to? Didn't President Obama sign legislation that took the middleman out of this?
They did, and that has been an improvement because you're not getting the middleman's fees kind of in there. But the federal government, is still charging big interest rates. We're talking about somewhere between 4 and 7, 8% on, depending on the types of loan. These Parent Plus loans that the parents take out are kind of insidious. We could talk about that if you want. And even if the student declares bankruptcy, they don't shake these loans. It's an incredible ordeal to try to get beyond them. Basically, the only reliable way to get past these loans without paying them is to either die or be declared permanently disabled.
Ooh.
And it's unlike anything else that's out there.
And they owe these are federal government loans for most.
They
of them.
are. Well, so there's a couple of different pieces on this. The federal government loans are there, and then there are private loans to what used to be Sallie Mae, or now Navient, and then local banks and other things that are out there. So it's a mix of those loans, and the harder it is to get the loans, and that's what I found. A lot of students far into their college, just trying to make it go by the third or fourth year of college and trying to make those payments. The options get worse, and they end up getting higher interest rate loans, or their parents take these Parent Plus loans, which are kind of crazy.
Good work, Neil. Great reporting on this, and I thank you so much for enlightening all of our audience on this on this problem. You hear a lot about it, but don't know a lot about it. And so you brought it all out, Neil. Thanks for taking the time this morning as well.
Thanks for having me, Bill. Take care.
All right, it's bostonglobe.com/magazine. Find out more about college debt and the problem. It's a real problem for millions of Americans. It really is. Right back on The Bill Press Show.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek. Newtown.
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 How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American. As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now, 26 minutes after the hour. Jordan Fabian from The Hill joins us at the half hour. Headline in Huffington Post we just saw during the break. The National Review has an editorial begging Mitt Romney to run for president, telling him it is his moral duty to save the country and save the Republican Party. Why'd you laugh? Save the Republican Party from Donald Trump by that he has to do it. He has to run for president. What are they thinking? Do they forget old Mr. 47%, right? Did they forget what a terrible candidate he was?
Guy's a two-time loser.
Yeah, right.
What's he going to do?
I guess, of course, if he runs, he has to have that scintillating candidate for vice president with him again.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan, he hasn't yet endorsed Donald Trump, so
he
might still be available.
This is the fundamental disconnect in the Republican Party. They still think that the Republican voters want a grown-up. They do not. They do not. They had the opportunity to elect several grown-ups this election cycle, and they were all shut down. If Mitt Romney had run this election cycle, he would have gotten his ass kicked again.
Again. In the primary.
Yeah, in the primary.
Yeah,
he would not have made it out of the primary.
No. And the idea, though, that they are so clueless about where the American people are today, and so clueless about what happened in the primary and why, that they would actually seriously think that Mitt Romney would have a chance. Right.
Stupid. It's just pure stupidity. There's no other way to put it.
But besides, I think Mitt's still working on his car elevator, isn't he?
That's right.
In his garage,
that's right.
Isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Got to buy more cars to make that thing worthwhile.
Oh, that's great. All right, President Obama, what's up with this big trip to Asia? Jordan Fabian covers the White House for The Hill, joins us next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains into the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
You bet it is. 33 minutes after the hour. On a Wednesday, May 25, the morning after Donald Trump's just impressive win in the state of Washington. Just crushed everybody.
He blew away the competition.
Oh, that's right. There wasn't anybody else on the ballot, was there? Yeah, that's an easy way to win one. At any rate, we're brought to you today by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. Yes, indeed. The good men and women of the Teamsters Union under President Jim Hoffa. We all live better because of their good work, and you can check out their good work at their website, teamster.org. President Obama leaving Ho Chi Minh City today, Vietnam, and flying on to Japan for the second big stop in his week-long Asian tour. Julian, boy, I'm going
Julian
home.
does sit 2 desks down from me at the Hill. So.
Oh, is that
nice.
right?
Okay, good.
That's good. Jordan Fabian covers the White House for the Hill and joins us in studio. When the cat's away, right? The mice will play. Here we go.
Yeah, here we
I
are.
know. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
You have been writing a lot, not only about what the president was doing, but the Veterans Affairs Secretary got in a little hot water the other day on wait lines at the VA.
Yeah, so he compared the wait lines at the VA to the lines at Disneyland. A puzzling comment. And I understand the point he was trying to make, right? He was trying to say that we should rate the VA hospital performance not just on wait times, but on the quality of care and all that stuff. But he made a really terrible analogy and said it in the complete wrong way, and managed to tick off Disneyland in the process and veterans. So
right, I mean,
double whammy.
Now look, I managed with our two boys to escape Disneyland and Disney World altogether. Carol did not, but I had some.
Oh no! You did that?
No, I had some phony excuse for not being able to make it. I don't know, but I've had other occasions to be like in an amusement park or so. But you wait in line for maybe an hour, right? Or if you, but these veterans are waiting in line for days or weeks,
and some of them are
months.
dying. This is not this is a completely different situation.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, the original comments were bizarre and they provoked a huge backlash. Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill.
Jumping on him.
Yes, all jumping on it. And he had the chance to apologize for it yesterday on Andrew Mitchell's show on MSNBC, and he didn't.
Let's see how that went.
Wait times are important, but they're not the only measure of veteran experience, and that's what veterans are telling us. We've talked to a lot of veterans. It's important. And if I was misunderstood, or if I said the wrong thing, I'm glad that I have the opportunity to correct it.
Dude, no. What's the if, dude? Right?
Right. There's no if, and Andrea gave him 3 chances to apologize, and he didn't do it. And when I saw that he was going to go on, I figured he's going on this national cable show. He's definitely going to apologize.
Yes, totally.
It was bizarre. I mean, it was totally bizarre. And this is a story where, if he had just apologized, I think this would have gone away. I really do, because all he did was stick his foot in his mouth.
Yeah.
Now here we are talking about it with the third day. This happened on Monday. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, we saw how poorly the VA managed the crisis in 2014 when this issue first came up, and now they're doing it again. It's really incredible to watch.
Does he survive? And what are you hearing from the White House? Do they have confidence in Bob McDonald?
Yeah, so I think he survives this. We saw Speaker Ryan come out yesterday, and he was very upset with the comments, but if you notice, he stopped short of calling for his resignation. Mm-hmm. And I do think that, behind closed doors, Republicans on Capitol Hill are pretty satisfied with the job that Secretary McDonald is doing, but they're certainly not happy with these comments. So look, if he makes it worse, if he keeps on this, it might change, but at this point, I don't see him stepping aside. No.
Right. Now, on the president's trip, you're here. You're not on Air Force One, obviously, with him. But what's the purpose of this Asian trip? Is this just 2 more countries that he wants to check off his bucket list before he leaves office? Or
well, yeah. I mean, I think that's certainly part of it in the final year in office. But he's got some things on the agenda. He's got the TPP, with the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. Vietnam and Japan are both parties to that deal. Mm-hmm. So he wants to, sort of reassure them that, he thinks it's going to pass, because right now, obviously, Congress is not. It's not looking. The prospects aren't looking good in Congress. And he's going in Japan. He's going to be at the G7 summit. So we're talking to a bunch of world powers. So talking about ISIS and climate change and these sort of things. But look, at this point in the presidency, it's sort of tough to make news when you're doing these overseas trips, because he's only got 9 months left.
Right. The president did talk about mention the TPP as one of the benefits of the trip, Jamie. If we've got that, he was talking to students in Vietnam before he left.
That will open up a lot of opportunities and create great confidence among investors here in Vietnam and U.S. companies who are interested in working with young people like you who may have a great idea.
So, and he also said that he is pretty confident that the Congress will approve TPP. He's already approved the deal, but it has to be ratified by Congress.
Yeah.
Where are we on that? What's the White House saying?
Well, I think that they they see the lame duck now as the really only real possibility of this getting a vote. Congress is breaking early this year for the convention, so they're going to be out of town in late July and like not coming back to do real business until after the election. So, we're talking now about what, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, that they're going to even be here. And and in that time, the actual work days are even smaller.
Right.
So,
Right. If you're talking about 8 weeks, that's 3 days a week.
Right, exactly. For real, though, yeah.
At the most,
yeah.
right. No, Congressman John Yarmouth from Kentucky, who was in last week, told us that's just about 8 weeks. It's all they have scheduled for the entire rest of the year.
Yeah.
It's not true for the rest of us.
Really?
Make that clear, right?
Damn.
That's work if you can get it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think the lame duck is a possibility still. I think that Speaker Ryan supports the deal. Mitch McConnell, not so much, but, we'll see what happens.
If there was any news out of the president's trip to Vietnam, it was the arms deal that he announced.
Yes.
So that after 50 or more years, we've had this embargo on selling military equipment and arms to Vietnam. We're now going to do so. Is this like a good deal?
Well, I think if you ask human rights groups, no, because they wanted this sort of be a quid pro quo where Vietnam agrees to improve the human rights situation, and we sell them arms. And look, there is interest for the United States there. Another big focus of the trip is sort of countering China's influence in the region. And, Vietnam is obviously upset with some of the things China's doing in the South China Sea. So this has benefits from the U.S. perspective. But, the fact that 3 dissidents were prevented from meeting with the president during this trip was certainly not a great sign for the human rights situation in Vietnam.
No. And you have to think about in that, with all the tension in that region, particularly China building these new islands and Japan and Korea and the whole thing, that introducing more military arms into that little tinderbox is, questionable, I would think. I mean, raises questions, certainly. But the president decided it's time to do it. So I'm sure the arms merchants in this country were pleased about it. So now on to Japan, where the big focus is Hiroshima.
Yes, that's going to be the sort of the biggest symbolic moment of this trip. The president going to the site of the U.S. atomic bombing. But, it's funny. He's not going to apologize, and I don't think he's going to be meeting with the survivors groups like they requested. So this is going to be more, he's going to be talking about the future and eliminating nuclear weapons from the planet, which obviously we're not even close to doing. So.
Right.
Tough sell, but he's going to do it.
You just mentioned survivor groups. It's hard to believe that there are any. I mean, not just because of the horrific nature of that bomb, but also just the number of years since 45.
Yeah, well, it is pretty remarkable. There are several groups, and they were trying to get a meeting with him before the trip, but so far
people who lived through that.
Yeah, people who lived through it. It's pretty incredible. I mean, it's you not only to live through that, but then to survive this long after being exposed to that kind of radiation is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So, is this, as some critics have said, the president's apology tour?
Well, if he's not apologizing, then probably not. I mean, I sort of see I see the point that by even going there, it's an apology in a way. But I think as long as he doesn't actually apologize, it's not an apology tour. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
I think there is something to be said about the fact that he is going there and acknowledging the horrors of nuclear warfare. Like, in some ways, I think you made that point. Like, it's not an apology, but it's kind of like, this is not a good look. We're not proud of this.
Yeah, and this has sort of been characteristic of his presidency, right? Like, he's gone to to Cairo in his first year and talked about
where the apology tour began.
Yes,
the kickoff date.
Exactly. Stadium show. There was some of that with Cuba too. Going and sort of
I was just going to raise that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think it's very interesting that in this last couple of months, the president will have gone to Cuba and to Vietnam. Two countries that we've been at war with almost for a long time, and two of the last communist countries on the planet, and we had long ago normalized relations with Vietnam. Now we finally have with Cuba, and it's
And even and we're talking about
all in the right direction. As far
it's
as
all
I'm
countries
concerned.
that Americans have fought and died against.
Yes.
And it's still a tricky situation, even though those wars were a long time ago. So it does. I think that's a lot of the big reason why the president isn't issuing an apology for Hiroshima, and also because the Japanese government doesn't want it. Kind of remarkably, they don't want to bring up that era in their history because. I think the idea is if the United States apologizes for dropping the atomic bomb, then the Chinese have to, or the Japanese have to, apologize for slaughtering hundreds of thousands of Chinese and all kinds of bad things they did during the war as well. So, sort of opening up a Pandora's box of bad stuff.
Right, man. Just this trip so fraught with tricky situations like that the White House had to. Very skillfully kind of maneuver through, and I think so far they've done pretty well. Jordan Fabian here covers the White House for The Hill, thehill.com. I'm his colleague, of course, because I do my column for The Hill on Tuesdays. We'll take a quick break and back with your calls at 866-55-PRESS.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine. Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek. Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour. All the polls, national polls, show that in a head-to-head contest, Bernie Sanders does like 3 times better than Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump. Steve Shepard from Politico will be in at the top of the hour to talk to us about that. Right now, we're here with Jordan Fabian, who covers the White House for The Hill, thehill.com. Yesterday, Jordan, the president's maybe not feeling that much love here, at home now because people aren't paying that much attention to him, where everything's focused on 2016. So he had to go all the way to Ho Chi Minh City yesterday to get a little love from one of his questioners.
I want to say that you are so handsome.
Oh. Okay. Well, you can just stop there if you want.
Yeah. I just want to say you're so handsome.
Wow.
Can you imagine anybody at one of our news conferences, right?
Tough questions.
Oh, my God.
Major Garrett standing up and saying, Mr. President, I just want to say,
so handsome,
you're so
bud."
handsome.
I mean, you guys are both members of the White House press corps. You could be the first to ask that question.
Yeah. Hard pass.
It's not a question, it's a affirmation.
A statement, I guess. Yeah, a statement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe the question would be, why are you? Or
why are you so handsome?
How did you get so handsome? Right?
How do you stay so handsome?
I know. But it does raise the question about, I get the impression that the president is chomping at the bit to get involved in this 2016. He has not hesitated to make some comments about certainly the Republican candidate.
Absolutely. I think he is itching to get into the fight. And I think, with the primary playing out as long as it has, he hasn't been able to do it as much as he would like to. But we're going to see it happen. I mean, and look,
what are they telling you, that he's going to be out there actively campaigning?
Yes. Yeah. The White House, White House, has been putting it out there for a while now that he's going to be on the stump, campaigning for the nominee and for congressional candidates, and certainly going after Donald Trump. You've been in the briefing room where he's come out, and unusual that he'll take a couple questions. He's made some statements on the economy, and then they'll stay for questions. And he knows he's going to get asked about Trump.
Yeah.
And he wants to get asked about Trump, and that's why he's taking those questions.
No.
So
he takes the rise of Donald Trump very personally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think he's legitimately worried about the country were Donald Trump ever to be where he is, because he knows, as he said, it's a serious job. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's worried about the country, but this is also personal for him because of how Trump went after the birth certificate.
Oh, right.
And just the two could not be more different people. I mean, it's like, it's crazy.
Now, The Hill, the main story in The Hill today is that reportedly there are senators, Democratic senators who support Hillary Clinton, who are discussing how to get rid of the Democratic chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, before the Philadelphia convention. Is that going to happen?
Unclear, but there's certainly people who want it to happen in the Democratic Party.
And I emphasize these are Clinton supporters, not Sanders supporters, because there's only one senator who supports Bernie Sanders anyhow.
Right.
So these are Clinton Democrats.
And their concern is that having Debbie Wasserman Schultz running the Democratic National Convention is just going to lead to even more chaos, because they see that she's lost credibility with folks who support Senator Sanders, and they're worried about the party being split going into the general election. So one idea they have to help unite the party is to pick more of someone who's viewed as a neutral arbiter to lead the party.
Any names being discussed?
They weren't throwing many names out there, and it's kind of hard to think, who would take up such a big job on short notice. But I think the willingness to dump her is, belying the really, really real fear that people have about a divided party and real chaos happening in Philadelphia.
Of course, the senators could not do that on their own. It would have to be the White House, really.
It would have to be. Yeah, it would have to go all the way up to the White House. Like President Obama installed her as the party chairman in 2011, and he, I think, would have to sign off on the ultimate decision whether to get rid of her.
All right. Well, Jordan, there's a lot going on, even with the president out of town. So good of you to take time to come in, bring us up to date.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
all right.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you if we ever get back to briefings, back at the White House.
You never know.
He'll be back. Yeah. End of the week, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Jordan Favy from thehill.com. We'll be right back. Tell you what the president's up to today in Japan.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way. It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
All right, hour number 3 coming up. Nobody knows the political scene better than Steve Shepard, who's the chief political strategist for Politico. He will be here in studio with us, and we'll also be talking with Debbie Hines, our legal analyst, about the Freddie Gray trial up in Baltimore, and also about the charges against Bill Cosby and the judge's stunning decision yesterday that there is enough evidence to force Bill Cosby to stand trial for sexual assault. All of that coming up in hour number 3, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Up with the time zones in Asia. But the president, his schedule, when we look at his schedule, what it's supposed to be today, it's really already happened. He met with students this morning, if it's the same day, in Vietnam, and then flew on to Japan, where he has arrived, a welcoming ceremony at the airport, and the president meets with, this was added to the schedule, has a one-on-one with the Prime Minister of Japan, Prime Minister Abe, this evening. And we'll catch up with him again tomorrow, and at the top of the next hour, we'll catch up with all the latest in 2016 with Stephen Shepard, campaigns and elections editor at Politico. Nobody knows politics better.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way. It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It was a blowout. Donald Trump, nobody else even came close to him in Washington State last night. But of course, nobody else was on the ballot. Hello, everybody. How goes it? Good to see you. Wednesday, May 25, morning after yet another primary night. There's a very light night last night, although that still kept us up on CNN until midnight. We're just lucky we didn't go longer than that. Once the protest started out front, we thought we might be there until every protester went home. Whatever, good to see you today as we come to you live on your local Progressive Talk radio station nationwide and also on Free Speech TV, coast to coast. Nobody better equipped to bring us up to date on all the different dimensions of the 2016 battle on the Republican side, the Democratic side, and looking ahead to the conventions than Stephen Shepard, campaigns and elections editor at Politico. Hello, Stephen. Good to have you back.
Always good to be here.
Right. Nice to see you. Brought your Java with you. I see you're got a little juice there.
I don't have time for a pit stop on my way in.
We have Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson on our team, of course.
Hey,
here we go. Ray Rogers here on the phones to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS on Cyprian Bolding. Our videographer, too, here with all 6 cameras live and in action. And Steve, we know it was a big night for you last night, not so much because of Washington State, not even because of the Georgia primary. It was a big night last night for you because of some action just down the street here from our studio. Let's see how that sounded last night.
Swinging a long drive, deep right field, way back, going, gone, goodbye, over the bullpen, into the second deck, a 2-run homer for Daniel Murphy.
Daniel Murphy. That really hurts when Daniel Murphy hits back.
Blast landing in section 239. Murphy with his 7th home run.
Let me run for a while.
Yeah,
let's just let this one play out. Let's do the long play here.
And it's a 3-run fifth for the Nationals. And it's Washington 5, New York 1. Bang! Zoom goes Daniel Murphy.
And ended up 7-4. How's that for a Mets fan? Huh? It must be tough being a Mets fan in Washington, D.C.
It used to not be difficult because the Mets were not competitive.
Last season, it was a lot harder to be a Nats fan when the Mets came to town.
Last season was a lot of fun. Look, I hope Matt Harvey figures it out. And I hope they have it's a gorgeous day here in Washington today, and they're going for a rubber match of the 3-game series. And basically, if the Mets win, they can tie the season series at 3. So hopefully today will go a little bit better.
Man, keep hope alive, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'll be there. I'm going.
Are you going?
Yeah, Jamie's going. Jamie's coming.
I might see you guys there.
All right.
Don't tell my employer.
You'll be the one wearing the Daniel Murphy Mets jersey. Yeah.
So you stirred up a little news this week when you talked about. Well, I guess I didn't mean to skip right over you.
That's fine. Let's get right into it.
All right. Okay. Normally Peter does it. I just got focused on
That's all right.
your story about
Get into it.
Bernie Sanders. It's Hillary's trying to focus on Donald Trump, and all the reporting is on Hillary versus Trump. But you pointed out when you look at the head-to-heads across the board, Bernie does a lot better. Why aren't people paying attention to that?
Well, this has been true for a long time, but what you saw before Donald Trump locked up the Republican nomination was that Hillary Clinton would lead Donald Trump by 7 points and Bernie Sanders would lead him by 13 points. Mm-hmm. And Bernie Sanders would say, well, I do a lot better, but Hillary Clinton is winning the nomination. She has more pledged delegates. She has certainly more superdelegates. She has more votes. That trajectory doesn't really seem to be altered in any way. But Sanders would always say, well, I beat Donald Trump by even more. Now that the Hillary-Trump race has closed significantly to basically 2 points in either direction, if you want to put a range on it.
It was 46 Trump, 44 Clinton, the last poll.
That is the ABC Washington Post poll. Yeah. I know Real Clear Politics has it basically tied when they average them together. Pollster.com gives Clinton a 2-point lead. Either way, it's basically a tie. Now Bernie Sanders can say, well, I am 7 points up on Donald Trump, who has undeniably gotten a bounce out of winning the Republican or eliminating his opponents for the Republican nomination. And now Hillary Clinton's tied. And so the question is, will that argument for Sanders take on new resonance going into the last slate of primaries where, look, he can't upend the delegate math. It's not going to happen. He is going to finish behind in pledged delegates at the end of this process after June 14th here in the District of Columbia. But if he wants to make that emotional argument, and if he wants to maximize his leverage going into the convention, not necessarily to win the nomination, but to influence the platform, to influence the speakers, to influence the tone of the convention and the messages that are delivered therein, he has an opportunity to maximize that leverage by running up some impressive performances, particularly on June 7th, particularly in California. And this is going to be his main argument to voters and to Democratic leaders. Look, Hillary Clinton could lose to Donald Trump right now, if you look at the polls. I wouldn't. Now, there are big questions as to whether or not that would be true if Bernie Sanders were the Democratic nominee and whether those numbers would hold up under the kind of scrutiny that you would get. And the Clinton campaign would be quick to point that out, that there would be a lot of fodder for Republicans on an ideological level to make an argument against Bernie Sanders. But that is the dynamic that exists today, and Bernie Sanders has seen some scrutiny, certainly during this campaign.
Mm-hmm. The poll thing is very interesting to me because there are so many people everywhere I turn that say, oh, you can't trust this poll. It's too early on. You can't trust these general election polls, which I get, but at the same time, these are the same people who said, oh, you can't trust these polls where Donald Trump is beating every single Republican. Jeb Bush is going to surge. These polls will not hold. This is the same exact argument. So if there's anything that I take away from this is like the polls have been really, really good. They've been pretty spot on this time around.
Now, isn't the significance of this if you're Bernie Sanders that he would hope that, let's say he does really well on June 7, including California. And I have to tell you, as former Democratic chair of California, I have never seen a candidate for governor hold as many rallies in as many cities in California. California is considered an air state, right? Because it's so big, you have to buy so much television, and you don't do a lot of grassroots stuff. Bernie Sanders is going from town to town in California. He is barnstorming that state. So particularly if he does well in California, isn't his hope that then the superdelegates will pay attention to the polls that you pointed out and say, look, he's got all these delegates, he wins California or even comes close, and he runs better against Donald Trump. Maybe we'd better rethink.
Right. Look, that is his argument at this point. That's a difficult argument to make, that they should upend the results of a 6 or 5.5 month process, wherein Democrats across the country
maybe affirm
potentially,
Yeah.
and
Right.
the odds that he would have to win
Right.
by such a high percentage
Yeah.
to receive more votes and more
Right.
pledged
Yeah.
delegates going into this
Correct.
that it doesn't seem mathematically,
But
has any likelihood, but. That's the argument, sure. And
They say, who's the stronger guy against Trump?
right. And when Hillary Clinton was leading Donald Trump by 7 points, even though Sanders' lead was almost double that, that was more of a theoretical argument, I think, for a lot of Democrats.
Yeah.
And the question
Now-
is now, does it have more sway that the race between Clinton and Trump is a lot closer, and Donald Trump has actually clinched the nomination? There's one other side to that
Okay.
that I want to point out, and you saw it on the Republican field. After Ted Cruz wins Wisconsin, they move into those northeastern states, and Donald Trump runs up the score. And then you go to Indiana, and Indiana looked like a great state for Ted Cruz going in. But it seemed one of the things that seemed to happen was Republicans seemed to say our choices are Donald Trump or chaos at the convention, and they chose Donald Trump over chaos at the convention. They knew Ted Cruz was not going to be the nominee in an easy process by acclamation. It was going to have to be really, really ugly. And so they gave the nomination basically to Donald Trump. And Ted Cruz recognized that, saw what was happening to the party. What you may see from California voters is rather than look at the polls between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and say, whoa, I don't know about Hillary Clinton, they may say, you know what? We could lose this election. Donald Trump could be president. It's time to rally around the candidate who has the pledged delegate lead, who is seen as the, very, very, very likely nominee. And they may rally to Hillary Clinton because of that. That is the other side of this. You may be seeing that in some of these, there's obviously the calendar has been very sparse. Washington State, it's a state where Bernie Sanders did great in the caucuses a couple of months ago. But last night in the non-binding beauty contest primary, Hillary Clinton is narrowly ahead. The AP has called it. Some other people haven't. They've only counted about 3/4 of the ballots because they only had to be postmarked by yesterday. So it's going to take a lot of time to go through and get the final count. But she's ahead of Bernie Sanders there in a state that he won the lower turnout caucuses by nearly 3-1 margin. So I don't know if that's what's happening, but if Hillary Clinton does get a bump out of this, that would be why.
Now, why would you say, what accounts for the fact that Bernie Sanders does so much better against Trump than Hillary?
I think it's largely the negative opinion that voters have of Hillary Clinton on a broader sense. Her numbers are not as bad as Donald Trump, but they're kind of close. She is majority unfavorables. She is not seen as honest and trustworthy. Bernie Sanders is seen as authentic, is seen as honest and trustworthy.
And an outsider.
And an outsider in a year where you've seen a significant number of voters who are looking for that. The Clinton campaign would point out that in a general election, he's going to be attacked for his ideology.
Mm-hmm.
That said, voters do know at this point, for the most part, that he identifies as a democratic socialist. They know about some of his ideas. He does have that good, that sort of 10 to 15% unknown, undecided on his image rating that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, who have been in the public eye for decades, don't. And there is a possibility that he could be defined in a negative way. His favorables only roughly approach 50%, and his unfavorables are closer to 40%. So there is that swath of undecided voters who don't know a lot about Bernie Sanders yet. And the Clinton campaign would say in a general election against a guy like Donald Trump, he could be dragged down as well.
Well, and also another aspect of it, the Clinton campaign is putting out the word that Hillary's bad numbers are Bernie Sanders' fault. That she can't focus entirely on Trump, and that's why her support. Is there any credence to that at all? I find it just total. It's like saying last night, the Mets complaining, we would have done a lot better, damn it, if the Nats didn't hit so many home runs,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there is, look, you mentioned the polls being accurate. These polls there's a cyclical nature to this. In 2008, John McCain wins the Republican nomination, and all of a sudden he's tied with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton in those hypothetical polls. Then Barack Obama wins the Democratic nomination. Hillary Clinton ends her campaign, endorses Barack Obama. Democrats come home, and then Obama takes a lead that he holds until about the Republican convention.
Yeah.
Then McCain closes, and then Obama pulls away in September and October. In 2012, Mitt Romney wins the Republican nomination. He surges. He ties Barack Obama. Barack Obama carries a lead for most of the summer, a small lead, and that ends up holding up. That's kind of what you're seeing now. Hillary Clinton, assuming things go as they've been going, and she wins the nomination, she will get that boost. How big will it be? That's difficult to say, but they will come home. Would they have come home a week ago if Bernie Sanders had ended his campaign 2 weeks ago? Sure. Will they come home if Bernie Sanders ends his campaign in the middle of June? Will they come home then? Yes, they will. And so it is true that she would be doing better if she didn't have that Democratic primary, but that will happen eventually. And there is a cyclical nature to these things. The other thing about the pivot to the general election is that it is, in some ways, a primary strategy. In the same way that Donald Trump, after winning in New York and Pennsylvania and Maryland and Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Delaware, was able to sort of pivot to attacking Hillary Clinton in Indiana, that was a signal to voters that it was time to rally around him. Hillary Clinton going to California and talking about Donald Trump as she did yesterday is a signal to California voters that, okay, let's go. It's time for the general election. And I don't think it may strike some as presumptuous, but I think to the extent if Democratic voters really do say to the threat of Donald Trump, you know what, rather than look at those polls, they may say, okay, it's time to rally around the person who's been portrayed as the nominee.
Right.
And they may come home to her. We'll have to, it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks.
And already talk about whether we are going to see, the word is contested, or maybe we should call it messy, convention in Cleveland and then again in Philadelphia. We're just getting, it seems like we've been at it forever, but there's still a long way to go here in 2016. Stephen Shepard with us, Nobody Knows the Scene Better from Politico. You have a question or comment, here's your chance at 866-55-PRESS.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment. that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show. Stephen Shepard here from Politico on all aspects of 2016. Not a lot of time left, Steve. I want to bump a couple of little items in the news this morning. The Sanders campaign has asked for a recanvass in Kentucky. It was close. I guess they think they could pull it out.
Yeah, separated by fewer than 2,000 votes. Look, there's no risk in asking for a recanvass. The deadline was yesterday. There's no cost to the campaign in asking for a recanvass. So as the campaign reaches the end of the primary process and fundraising has trailed off to some degree, this is, first of all, something you can use to try to raise more money, and it doesn't cost anything. So there's no harm in asking for this. If the recanvass still shows her ahead, they'll have to decide whether or not to file a lawsuit to force a full recount, and they can make that decision based on the margin, I guess.
Right. On the other news on the Sanders front, Bernie Sanders was criticized a month or so ago because he hasn't done anything to help other Democrats who are running for office. Well, now he has helped one Democrat who's running for office, who happens to be running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz for Congress in Florida. And now everybody's piling on Bernie saying, how dare you support this Democratic challenger? But there's a message there, I guess, right?
There is. Look, his supporters are really unhappy with the way Debbie Wasserman Schultz has run the DNC, some of the debate scheduling, some of the fundraising agreements with the Clinton campaign. The interesting thing to watch here is going to be when that primary comes down. It's at the end of August. And so if Bernie Sanders does, quit,
until then.
It's not until then. If he does end his campaign, whether it's in June, whether it's in July of the convention, there will be a perhaps momentum lost between now and August 30th or 31st, whenever that Tuesday primary is, down in Florida. So, but it's going to be great for fundraising for Tim Canova, the candidate who's running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the interim. For sure.
And we have to point out that Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been endorsed by President Obama. So he went out of his way in this primary, too. So, I mean, you don't have to really feel sorry for her, I don't think, right? I mean, she's got a big guy on her side, right?
Yeah, no.
Does Gary Johnson have a shot?
A shot at what? A shot at influencing? Well, no, a shot at influencing potentially which of the two major party candidates gets elected president.
That's what I mean.
Yes, in a year where majorities have unfavorable opinions of both likely nominees at this point, sure, a third party candidate, someone who's elected as a governor of a state and running with another two-term governor of a state on his ticket, sure, they could attract 5, 6, 7% in some states that could swing the margin. We've never seen two people this unpopular.
Thank you, Stephen.
Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour. Yes, the Bill Press Show. Washington, D.C. is our base, but where we are is wherever you are across this country, coast to coast, on the radio and on television. Coming to you live from our studio on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by the American Federation of Teachers. Let's hear it for the teachers of America, making a difference in America's classrooms every day, you bet. And under the leadership, members of the AFT, under President Randy Weingarten. Check out their good work at their website, aft.org. Bill Cosby yesterday getting the bad news from a judge up in Philadelphia, or somewhere in Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, I guess. Yeah. We wanted to check in on that and other issues with Debbie Hines, our legal analyst, we call her. She's a trial lawyer and legal analyst with Legal Speaks at legalspeaks.com. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Peter.
Hey, Debbie.
All right, Debbie, let's start, though. Up in Baltimore, the first trial, first of the 6 officers charged in the death of Freddie Gray, Officer Edward Nero, is the first one to go on trial. And the judge ruled, he's got him off on all charges. Were you surprised at the verdict, and what does it mean for the others to come?
No, I wasn't surprised at the verdict for this officer. He was the second to go on trial. Officer Porter was the first, and he ended up in an acquittal. But Officer Nero, from a legal standpoint, and even the family's attorney for Freddie Gray agreed with the judge's ruling for Officer Nero. From a legal standpoint, I mean, he had very minimum contact with Freddie Gray, and so I think the state was trying to stretch and make, something out of almost nothing. It's not that they didn't have a case, but I think that some of the counts were really more of a stretch, and then as things shaked out with witness testimony, there ended up being one of the state's witnesses, Brandon Ross, who was a friend of Freddie Gray's, who was with him at the time of the incident. He ended up, in terms of his testimony, agreeing, too, that this officer, Nero, was not the one that was responsible for the arrest of Freddie Gray.
Now, there are five other officers to be tried?
Correct.
So the fact that the first 2 were cleared of charges or acquitted, what does that mean about filing the charges in the first place? Did the state or the state attorney, whoever did it, go too far too fast?
Well, the first person, Officer William Porter, he was not acquitted. He had a hung jury.
Oh, hung jury, I see.
Yeah, and that's very different. I mean, because law is an art, not a science, so another jury could very well find him guilty of all the charges. Just as another judge could have found Officer Nero guilty of some of the charges. So I'm not going to say that the state went too far, because that's just how the law shakes out. And seriously, another judge could have found Nero guilty of at least one charge. I thought there was one charge that he could have been found guilty of, but I don't have a problem with the judge's explanation as to how Judge Williams came to decide that he was going to acquit Officer Nero.
Well, what I'm asking, I guess, is what confidence do we have in the other 5 cases that anybody's going to be found held accountable for the death of Freddie Gray?
Well, that's interesting, because that was one of the good things about Judge Williams reading for 25 minutes a very detailed opinion. And what he said was the reason why, in essence, why he was letting this officer off the hook, who was a 2-year rookie on the job, who was there with senior officers, a lieutenant, a van driver, who are the most culpable involved in the incident with Freddie Gray. He made it very clear that his ruling and the facts of Officer Nero had nothing to do with the van driver. And as a matter of fact, the van driver, who Cesar Goodson's trial is up on June 6th, all the officers that testified in both Officer Porter's case and in Officer Nero's case put the blame on the van driver. So it's just a shakeout based on the facts, because even the officers are saying, they're not saying he's guilty, but they're saying, oh, no, he was the one that was responsible for what should or should not have happened with Freddie Gray.
You mentioned earlier that Freddie Gray's family actually agreed with this ruling. So what is it, I guess, that Freddie Gray's family would like to see happen? How do they want to see the rest of these trials play out?
Well, I can't speak for their family, and what he said is their family lawyer, who obviously is the one who's speaking for them, and he's speaking from a legal point of view. He is saying that he had no qualms with Judge Williams' opinion, as he explained fully his opinion. I think they want to see justice, as do many of the residents of Baltimore. And then justice doesn't mean that someone should be held criminally responsible for the death of Freddie Gray. You just don't go into a van, a police van, and come out dead. And he was basically brain damaged or unconscious and not breathing when they got him to Western District, although he died a week later. And he was in full custody of the police officers. What he did not do to himself. It's just a matter of, it's a lot of a circumstantial case. None of the officers are going to say exactly what happened, and that's the difficulty with the case. But that doesn't mean the case should not have been brought.
Debbie Hines is our guest here, legal analyst. We're talking about the Freddie Gray cases up in Baltimore. And now Bill Cosby yesterday, bad news from a Pennsylvania judge. Again, were you surprised at his verdict, saying that there's enough evidence to proceed with a trial against Bill Cosby?
No, because procedurally he was having, which he has a right to do, what's called a preliminary hearing. Oftentimes attorneys will waive a preliminary hearing because it's basically the lowest of the lowest of the lowest standards. And what the preliminary hearing is just to determine is if there's enough evidence in the case for probable cause to actually even proceed to trial. And so the standard is very, very low for the state in terms of getting over that initial threshold. Now, the reason why defense attorneys may go ahead and have a preliminary hearing, as in the case of Bill Cosby, is they get a preview. It's almost like a movie preview.
Yeah.
They're getting a preview of how the witness would testify. I mean, they kind of know what's going on, but they get a preview of how things are going to shake out. But that's the real reason why the defense would do it, because in most cases, a preliminary hearing is either waived, or if it goes forward, it's going to be found that the state has that minimum enough evidence to go to trial.
Now,
that doesn't mean they can get a verdict, but they have enough to go to trial.
All right. Now, this case dates back to 2004, but it's one of, I think the Post reported yesterday, 56 women
and counting
who have accused Cosby of sexual misconduct. This guy's going to be in court for the rest of his life. Are they all combined, or going to be combined, or
no?
How many more trials will he face?
Well, that's the problem, because this case is, and she just barely made it. This case is so far is the only case of all of those that is within that fell within the statute of limitations.
No,
because her incident happened in 2004, 5, whatever, and when they filed it, it was a 10-year statute, and they were actually within days, not weeks, but days of losing the ability to press charges against him in her case. So the other cases, they're well without this. They're not within the statute of limitations. There's maybe one that I think they were looking into in Los Angeles, another one. But so no, we're not going to hear. He's not going to be charged in those 50-some other cases, because they happened, more than 10, 20, in some instances 30 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So all of those are just gone. This is the only one that they could nail him on?
So far, this looks like this is the only one that they can nail him on. Like I said, I know that they're investigating another case in L.A. I'm not sure what the shakeout is with that one. But of those 56 cases, there's not any other than maybe the one that they're investigating in L.A. that they can file charges on. There's a statute of limitations in the cases.
Do you know the details of her complaints, the details of anything about the details of the case, and how serious the charges are, and how much trouble Bill Cosby is in?
Oh, yeah. Her case, she was an athletic director, I believe that was her title, at Temple University, and obviously Bill Cosby has a tremendous connection to Temple University, and what is alleged is that she ends up with him. I'm not sure exactly where, if it's at his place. I'm assuming it's at his place, because that's how all the other ones shook out, is that he's taking him someplace where he has control over, as opposed to their apartment or homes. And he gives her something which I think he's saying was not a drug or whatever, and she's knocked out, and the sexual assault takes place. The difficulty in her case is the fact of what he does by giving women drugs to make them not clear on what happened. So her case is going to be still, like many of the other ones, a circumstantial case as to, I woke up, he's on top of me, this is what's happening. I mean, because of the fact of you're sedated.
Yeah.
It's a whole new, it's a whole new sort of sexual assault case, right? I mean, this is not one that we're used to seeing in a celebrity spotlight anyway, of something like this. So it's could go either way, you know?
No, and I don't want to bring up the other one, but there was another one that I think went away involving similar facts with CeeLo Green.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. I do remember that.
Man. Well, Debbie, it's always good to have you in the studio, but we understand you couldn't make it today, but we thank you so much for taking the time to bring us up to date on these two important
always great to be with you guys.
All right, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Debbie Hines, follow her work on Legal Speaks, legalspeaks.com. I think she's on her way to the courtroom right now, so, you know.
Watch out.
Yeah, watch out.
Get out of her way.
All right. And we pick things up again on the other side. 866-55-PRESS. You got a question about or comment about Mr. Cosby.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you, the last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue. Dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, just when you think the political situation can't get any uglier than it is, Donald Trump comes out with a new line of attacks. He was at it again yesterday. By the way, for example, at his rally last night in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He again referred to Secretary Clinton, Crooked Hillary. He calls her Crooked Hillary.
Yep.
The guy who
Gotta have a nickname.
Yeah, guy that introduced him referred to as Low Life. And earlier in the day, maybe it was the day before, Donald Trump released an ad with the voices of Juanita Broderick and Kathleen Willey accusing the president of rape. Donald Trump, in an interview, actually going further than that, maybe, saying that the Clintons were also maybe guilty of murder in the case of Vince Foster.
Good God.
So it's already May 25, ladies and gentlemen, and we are already down in accusing Donald Trump accusing the Clintons. And, of course, Hillary's the enabler in all of it, so criticizing both Bill and Hillary for rape and murder and God knows what else. Incest hasn't been thrown in yet. It's probably only a matter of time. And the questions are whether this line of attack is going to work. It's been so old. We've been over it so many times. Hillary's been elected 2 or 3 times despite all of that stuff. Whether this will really work now, almost 20 years later. And also, kudos to the Washington Post for adding a new twist to this, which is that this line of attack on the part of Donald Trump is the exact opposite of what Donald Trump said at the time.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very, very good point. The Post headline was Trump's flip-flop on whether the Bill Clinton sex scandals are important. Today, Donald Trump says, quote, "Nobody in this country was worse than Bill Clinton with women. He was a disaster." And yet, as the Post points out, back in 1997, at this very time, he gave an interview to the late Bob Novak, my friend from Crossfire, where he said, quote, "I think Bill Clinton's terrific. I think he's done an amazing job. I think he's probably got the toughest skin I've ever seen, and I think he's a terrific guy. I don't think he's been treated very fairly, but I think he's done a terrific job." Believe me, he might have added.
Believe me.
But terrific, certainly. Terrific. He's got it. And then he said again on CNBC in 1998, the best thing he has going is the fact that the economy's doing great. He went on to say in that same interview, no, this was also a 98 interview, though, to the New York Times, "Accept complete responsibility for personal failures, be lucky enough to have enemies with their own shortcomings, and hold steadfast to your political agenda." That's the advice that Donald Trump gave the president. And then went on to say, after the initial shock has passed, the American people are less interested in sexual transgressions than they are in public achievements. And Donald Trump gave an interview with Chris Matthews where he joined the people now who were piling on to Bill Clinton's accusers.
Paula Jones is a loser, but the fact is that she may be responsible for bringing down a president indirectly. And, you know, that statement was a bad statement to have been made, and it's proven to be false. So,
yeah.
You know what's interesting to me, though, is Trump has remarkably toned his rhetoric down a little bit since those days, right? Like, these are the days that he was running around literally calling Rosie O'Donnell a big fat pig.
Right.
calling her a loser. He doesn't like. He comes up with creative nicknames to let other people make the connection, but he has toned down his rhetoric a little bit, which is kind of remarkable.
So Paula Jones, he says, is a loser, and then Chris Matthews says, well, Trump, you see the problems that Clinton has ever had. Have you thought about maybe running for office?
Can you imagine how controversial that'd be? You think about him with the women. How about me with the women?
So he admits he was worse than Clinton, right? So this whole thing, I think, I said it before, I'll say it again, I think this whole line of attack on the part of Donald Trump is going to backfire, will backfire. It'll make people, I think, a lot of people just feel sorry for Hillary. I think it will turn off a lot of people. And then I think there are a lot of young people today who just don't care about something that happened 20 years ago. They're much more concerned with whether they're going to have a chance to get a college education, get a job, improve, and have a good life here in this country today, and how Donald Trump is going to help them. With a quick parting shot coming up next, we'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap. But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation, get married, give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
We'll leave it to the media to make something out of nothing. The latest is all the noise that they're making about Bernie Sanders saying he thinks the convention in Philadelphia might be messy, which some are interpreting to mean he's calling for violence, which is such nonsense. What Bernie means by messy is lively and spirited debate over what's going to be in the platform, debate over what's going to be in the rules moving forward with the Democratic Party, whether we're going to have closed primaries or open primaries and all of that. In other words, at this convention, there's going to be real action. There are going to be actual decisions that will be made. Unlike all recent conventions, it won't just be a totally scripted, made-for-TV snoozer. As a journalist, as a Democrat, I love that. As a journalist, for one thing, it'll give us something real to talk about. And as a Democrat, we'll come out of that convention stronger and more united than ever before. So, yes, here's to a messy convention in Philadelphia. My parting shot for today. Come back and see us tomorrow, folks.
This is the Bill Press Show.